Why is this not on Catherine North?
Because this isn't Catherine North Street. It's a different road. That's why we're not there.
Okay, that's fair.
So the studio started with Dan Aiken and Glenn Marshall years and years ago in the mid-90s or so. And it was in a house that was on Catherine Street North. It was actually, I think, Glenn's parents' house, or Glenn's wife's parents' house, or somehow they were in a house on Catherine Street North. The name stuck with them. It's still spelled differently than the street.
Oh, okay.
I think the street is Catharin and we are Catharin.
Oh, okay.
So somehow it got changed, and then this building became available, and we moved here around 99 or so.
Oh, nice.
So this church was actually bought by a man named Chris Bromwich. He passed away the start of May this year.
Okay.
But he used to run a studio called Cross-Eyed Bear in Hamilton.
Okay.
He was in a band called Vehicle for a while, keyboard, synth player.
So he bought this.
He bought the church.
Who did he buy it from?
It was a Korean community of some sort that was in here. So it was still a church when he bought it.
Oh, nice.
If you roll up the carpets, you can see all the pew lines on the floor still. So when he bought it, it was full of pews.
Oh, yeah? Did he just sell them all?
Picked away at them, sold them, donated a bunch of them.
Nice.
There's still a few of them around here because they're beautiful.
Yeah,
woodwork
for
and
sure.
stuff.
Sure, that paid for half the building.
Yeah, exactly.
Solid old
They
wood.
may not have been popular in 99 as they would be today.
Chris just developed some medical conditions where he was unable to work anymore, and so he made the top floor available. Dan and Aiken and Glenn Marshall moved in, and eventually we took over the whole building.
Wow.
And
That's
the
awesome.
name just stuck around.
Yeah. So who's worked here? I know that it was Feist, right? What record did she do here?
She did some demos, right?
Yeah, and I think she did like part of her first record.
First record? Okay, cool.
Dan Aiken, the starter of the studio, he's Feist's uncle.
Oh, okay.
So there's a family relationship
that
there
helps.
somehow. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Arkells, at some point, what did they do?
Arkells, we did an EP called Study Music.
Oh, okay.
Which was like an acoustic.
Okay, that's a recent record, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
pretty
cool.
recent. We did the Glorious Sons record, The Union.
Cool.
Which was a cool one.
Cool.
Pretty awesome rock record.
City in Color has been here.
Two albums he did here, yeah.
Wow. One of the cool things was I was a huge fan of Josh Ritter, and I saw in the liner notes that he did a track here for.
You know more about that than I do.
Yeah, well, I actually think, I think he did. It's the Animal Years. I think it's
Yeah.
And I think the story is he did the full record, but only certain one song or something. But yeah, which is really cool. That's like
Totally
a really
cool.
iconic album. So
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a lot of people would say that's his best record.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it's.
The list
Cool.
of music that's come out of here is beyond Dan and my knowledge.
Well, yeah, let's go back to the beginning, because you had said a little earlier off camera about how this place has spawned a lot of what is still existing in the music industry and other studios in town.
Did we?
We did? We talked about that. Kier, well, you said,
Kier.
and actually
Yeah.
Kier said that, Michael Kier from
Threshold.
he had said in his interview with us that he was working here for Dan. I think he was interning.
Michael
College
Kier.
interning?
Michael Kier started when he was in university as an intern here. He hung around.
Yeah,
like
and
most
he
young
mentioned
kids
this
did.
was the moment, like being here was the moment where the kind of the light switched on.
It inspired him a little
Yeah.
bit. Yeah, I mean, it's an inspiring building, whether
Totally.
musically or career-wise. And so Kier started here as a intern, and then him and Glenn took off to start their own place. Eventually, they started Vibe Wrangler. That went for a few years, and then Kier went into a smaller space that he's in now at Threshold.
Yeah.
So he started as an intern here and then moved on.
There's something great about Catherine North, how it's been here for so long too, because home studios is a bit of a up and coming fad. I mean, it's not a fad, but it's popular.
It's new in this
and it's
in
new.
the industry.
Yeah. And then there's other studios have closed down in the years, and then there's other people thinking, you know what, maybe I should get back into it. And but this has been here since '99. You said, has it always been open since '99?
I'm guessing of the year 99, but it was around that time that
Yeah.
we actually, the studio moved into this building itself and then started business here.
Well, that's great.
So we've been here 16 years, 17 years. Dan and I, we've only been here, 9-10 years together. We've been involved in the studio.
Yeah.
So it's those remaining 7 years, we don't know the whole history of or who's been in here.
Yeah.
Duke's been around since pretty much the start of the Catherine North on the street days.
Okay.
So he has even more information, but he's still missing some sessions that he wasn't a part of.
Interesting.
So the whole history of the studio is kind of, we'd have to get 30 people in the room and
Yeah.
combine stories.
We don't have that many mics.
No.
So when I'm curious about these kind of larger studios that are well known, and I mean, especially when we have Toronto that's half hour down the road on a good day. And, Feist has done records here, City and Color. Is it on the radar of those people and thinking, let's make a record out there?
Well, I think because this place is pretty unconventional for a recording studio, I usually find it's like bands looking to make something different.
Right.
They don't, for whatever reason, they don't want to go to like a traditional sort of studio setup. Whatever producer, or if they're working with us, just doesn't want to do that either. So they're looking for some sort of new inspiration.
Right.
That brings.
How many of the bands do stuff live here that you work with? Is that a common?
That I personally work with? We usually, like the basic setup is that if we're working with like a band, like a rock band, or indie rock band or something, we're setting everyone up together. We have
in the same room.
in the same room. But whether we keep anything but the drums is a different story.
Oh, I see. Okay.
But yeah, it just like, it totally depends on the band and what we're going for. But certainly anything I produce, I'm usually, I like crazy amp setups, like 3 different amps going at once and stuff. And it gets hard to do if you have,
totally.
2 guitar players in the band. And,
So normally when we are tracking, we try to get everyone to start the song together and play in the room together. All the amps are in the back rooms, doors are shut. Okay. It's isolated enough where it doesn't bleed into the drum mics. But the good thing is you record more of like the performance of the song than the actual song, because everyone's here. The drummer can get annoyed and throw his stick at the bass player because he's not locking a groove because he's 5 feet away from him.
And you can keep it.
So and acoustically everything's isolated and clean, but you're right there to the other guy in the band.
Yeah.
You lock eyes, you lock groove, you play better. You get more life into the song.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
And the other thing that I always find interesting too is like, I don't know how, like engineers who are just recording like a guitar in a drum, like a scratch guitar drum kit, it's like, I don't really know how you assess like what kind of drum tones you're getting.
Right.
It's like, I like hearing like the vocals and the whole band. And it's like, okay, well in this song,
that's a great point.
I get the whole picture on it, so.
And that speaks to the advantage of a studio this size versus a bedroom studio, because you can't do that. You can't set up the whole band.
The physical space.
The physical space, exactly. And it's not just, the drum tone, but I even think of the whole arrangement of the song. I think it's like, if I'm playing this in my bedroom and I think, no, we're good with the chorus and that's it, it's a 2-minute song. But in here, all of a sudden you have the time and the space and you feel like, I could do that again. I could play this song out and change it around. I never thought about that, but that's kind of an interesting benefit. So would somebody I'm kind of curious about how, when you start a session, and I'm not talking about a record, but an actual song with a band, and let's go under the idea of it being a traditional rock band, so guitar, bass, a vocalist, and a drummer. Would you then, you set everyone up and you're recording into Pro Tools, is that right? Yeah. So, and you're setting up with the intent to keep the drums, right? So the electric guitarist, you have him strumming, but his amps are back there.
Still mic'd.
Still mic'd, okay. And then you have the vocalists, would they be in the booth?
Usually, yeah.
Okay. And then the bass would just be DI or into
still an amp in another room, still mic and record the DI as well.
Okay, cool. So you're thinking 100% we have to keep these drums. Is that right?
Yes.
You start, when you start building a song, you start layering a song, you start with the foundation and the base, which is the drums.
Right.
You start with the drums and you build on top of that.
Okay, cool. So how much of the other stuff do you think you would keep? Or in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you know what, it's just going to be more fun to overdub this later?
It depends on the band. Sometimes we'll keep everything, but generally, like it can be, from a sonic perspective, it can give you a bit of an edge if you overdub it.
Yeah. Right.
You can get some more interesting tones. You have more. If a band's in here, I hate sitting around for 5 hours like EQing a snare. It's like, all right, let's go.
Yeah.
Like, does a snare work or not? Like,
Yeah.
If not, let's put a different snare in.
Yeah.
I like, and I want it to be quick, and inspiring. I don't want people like sitting around not doing anything.
Totally.
So,
But when a band rolls in at 10 in the morning, by maybe 12:30, 1 o'clock, we're ready to start hearing the drum mics.
Nice.
So it takes a little while
Yeah.
to set up the drums, get
That's
them
right.
tuned, get
Yeah.
them positioned, then get the mics in place, get the drummer comfortable, and then start doing a couple takes to hear how it sounds.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of time kind of spent just getting ready to start recording.
So you set up the drummer over there, and we'll get some B-roll, but you set up the drummer on the stage. Is that right?
Sometimes.
Okay, what
Sometimes they're
other
in the middle of the
options?
floor, sometimes they're over here by the front door.
Oh, okay. Cool.
As you work in this room, every single spot sounds a little bit different.
That's cool.
So we
Yeah.
we can move around the room, we can manipulate
Yeah.
the acoustics of the space to suit the project and what we think it would need.
That's cool.
But most of the time, yeah, the drums are on the stage.
So you're not limited to that big cathedral ceiling sound.
yeah, that's on the stage is actually interesting because it's a much tighter sound than on the floor.
The stage
Really?
itself has been fully filled with sand. Oh. So any sound that goes through the boards into the hollowness of the stage is actually absorbed through the sand and just.
Was that done when it was a church or when it was a studio?
That's done when it was turned into a studio.
Oh, okay. It's not like a baptismal type of thing, like a beach baptism.
John Lennon up there on the stained glass did recommend it to the
Well, the church is a cool thing, and I mean, I'm sure in all over the world, and I know there is, and in Nashville and whatnot, there are other churches. But before I knew much about studios or had seen studios, the fact of it being in an old church is kind of cool.
I like to say that we cheated because we just kind of came into a building that was designed to be a nice acoustic building.
Right? Yeah.
And we
that's
just
true.
came in and it sounded good.
And it just so happened too that authentic hardwood floors and the ceilings that are slanted like this just so happen
The
to
height
are
of it
great.
as well is
Yeah.
very beneficial.
Totally. I find that, rooms like this are great for writing too. I don't know how much writing would go on in here, but when you're in a creative space like this, it's inspiring.
The whole room is inspiring and
Yeah,
encouraging and ideaful, and it's motivational just
totally.
to be in here.
Yeah. Do you, I want to just hop to vocals for a second. Do you always record vocals in the booth or sometimes out here?
I'd say
Most of the time out here?
99%.
Okay,
is out
cool.
here.
And the natural reverb in here, I recently recorded a demo on my iPhone, as you always do, and I was in a part of my house that had high ceilings and didn't have any furniture, and I couldn't believe the reverb that was coming through. It sounded like it was artificial, like it was just so big. So do you record the reverb that we're hearing right now, and how do you do that?
On a vocalist?
On a vocalist, yeah.
Every once in a while, yeah. But usually, like, the vocalist is like, kissing
Right.
the
Close
mic
up,
or
right.
close enough that you're not picking much
Project
of the room.
dependent as well.
Sure.
If it's like an acoustic guitar and someone's doing like an operatic voice,
Yeah.
then yeah, you need the space of
Yeah.
the room. But like modern pop and rock and indie stuff, it's all mostly close mic'd and it's
Right.
just there.
Right, that's true.
But
yeah.
it's still nice just to have them in the main
No, that's a
room
good
and-
point. Yeah, based on the singer. I was thinking about that the other night when I heard that reverb come through from my living room. That was natural. I just thought, man, it's a breath of fresh air because you're so used to hearing these dead bedroom vocals.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if we're doing drums on the stage, just to get on the reverb thing, if we're doing drums on the stage, we can put a stereo mic in front of it 5 feet away.
Right.
That gives you a little bit of room space. If you go 10 feet away, it's getting bigger. If you go
Right.
10 feet or 20 feet away, it's even bigger. If you go right to the stained glass, you're 50 feet away from the drums.
Yeah.
But it's still a quiet enough room. The drums are still in the room, and you get a massive swell of
Yeah.
the room.
So tell me about this board here. What is it?
This is a late 70s, I believe her birth date is 1978. This is Cordelia. She does
Okay.
have a name.
You have a name, yeah,
This is an MCI JH500 series console. It is revision C. It is loaded with 30 channels.
Where did it come from?
Originally, I don't know. Dating it back serial number wise, there's a community I'm a part of the MCI kind of forum.
Okay.
MCI is based out of Fort Lauderdale in Florida. They were actually bought out by Sony. But back in like the 70s and 80s, something like 60, 70, 80% of all hits you would hear on the radio were done on one of these consoles or the JH24 tape machine.
Okay.
So this originally was sold by Teletech up in Markham. They were the dealer that were registered as owners of this console that were reselling it. Where it went to first, I'm not sure. It ended up in a place called Highland Studios,
Okay.
which was before my time. When they shut down, it got moved into Catherine North on the street. And then
Where was Highland? In Hamilton?
somewhere in Hamilton,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Yep. And then here it is here.
Wow.
So about 2 years ago, I went through every single channel strip and recapped them all.
How long does that take?
Wow. That's show you what a recap actually means. A lot of people hear the term recap. Recap my amp, recap my board, that kind of thing.
I would be one of those.
So a capacitor in electronics, here's some theory for everyone. These little silo-y guys, these are all capacitors.
Okay.
They're literally tin foil, paper with some electronic oil in it, and then another piece of tin foil coiled up and stuffed in this can with 2 wires that stick out.
Wow.
The rubber dries out in the cap that seals it on the bottom. The oil drains out, it dries out, and the cap stops working as it should.
And what's it supposed to do?
It in a way, it blocks DC from passing through it and only allows electricity, or we can use them to tune filters based on the size, the value of the cap. The purposes are endless, really.
Okay.
So as they dry out, low frequencies get affected more, and the bass roll off naturally is just, the bass is gone.
Oh, okay.
Some of these got to the point where the preamps would just not pass audio. Like the low cut filter was up in like 20 kilohertz, and it was cutting everything below 20 kilohertz, which is everything we hear. So I went through, there's about 68 or so capacitors on each of these channels.
On one strip?
On one microphone strip.
Wow.
So there's about 2,000 caps that changed.
Do you make your own, or?
The parts? No, you got to order the caps.
Okay.
I mean, they're pretty cheap.
Yeah.
A good quality one will cost you 50 cents for a cap.
Okay.
When you buy 2,000, there's price breaks and stuff like that. But it's the labor of going in, desoldering 2 pins, pull the cap out, make sure the holes are clean, put the new one in, make sure you don't break the circuit traces, solder it in place, go to the next one.
Was that mostly what needed to be done, or were there other problems?
From there, it kind of fixes up any bad joints. So the last guy who did it, and then you come into other problems that you easily fix as you go through and you test it.
Right.
So there were other bugs. Some EQs weren't working, some bands weren't working. I didn't even check them and make a list. I just said recap it, and then I'll go through every channel, find the errors, and fix them as I went.
Right.
So a lot of the bugs that I knew were here, once I recapped it, they just kind of went away.
Wow.
Just the labor, I naturally fixed something, or I saw
nice.
a bad point where I wasn't thinking, I just naturally fixed stuff as I went through.
That's cool. Yeah, I'm glad you showed me that, because I'm really curious about recapping. It's something you hear all the time.
Yep. So
That's
downstairs
really
in the
cool.
shop you guys saw earlier, there's an old Yamaha PM700. She's getting recapped. I just did a Soundcraft board for a guy, and it's nice. It resets the channels to like factory specs.
Wow.
Because the resistors, they don't really fade in resistance. The transistors, unless they die and break, they don't really go bad.
Wow.
It's the caps, they dry out over 20 years.
That's really cool.
Literally just sitting here in 20 years, they will dry.
So when you look at boards, some of the boards we've seen, like at Dan's place, I know you worked on that board, the Soundcraft. You're saying you can take these boards that were made 30 or 40 years ago and get them back to the way they're intended to sound?
It just pull the capacitors out,
That's
put brand
really
new
cool.
ones in, and then it works as it should.
Did you do any mods to this at all to suit your workflow?
So yeah, for this one, there's little jumpers I added. So originally on this board, the EQ was post fader.
Okay.
So when you pull the fader down saying, hey, don't send any audio to the mix bus, it's sending nothing into the EQ. The EQ is sending signal out to the mix bus. So whatever noise and hiss is naturally in the circuitry from the EQ was always going to left and right of all 30 channels. So you don't notice until you start trying to get things quieter.
Right.
The noise floor of the board was not bad, but it is amazingly quieter now that I've changed that.
Cool.
So all I do is move some jumpers around, put the EQ before the fader. So when the fader's down, it's sending silence out of the channel strip.
Okay, cool.
Some other grounding mods drop the noise a little bit, but other than that, it's the
It's
EQs are
amazing
stopped.
how you ripped that out of there so easily.
I was at Studio 410 maybe a week ago with Carm out there.
Okay.
Another place you guys should check out.
Yeah,
but
I've heard of that
I was
place.
there working on the Neve board for him, and a friend of his came by, and the word he used was savage. This is Tristan. He's an electronic savage here today. But in a way, it's like, I have no fear. Like I just reach in, I just grab things, and I rip it apart. It's just once you do it enough, you become natural and just fluent with it. I was careful there, but I'm just so used to it. It just
Well,
I
it's
do it.
yours.
Yeah, I'll break it if I fix it. I don't let anybody put beer on the consoles except me,
Okay, that's fair. I've seen that before.
because I'm the guy that's gonna have to fix the beer and clean up the beer afterwards. So
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
cool. I wanted to ask about the preamps in here.
Yep.
I see you have a lot of preamps.
a lot of the outboard, yeah.
Are we using, is there a way to kind of wire past these and use your preamps? Is that what you do?
Yep. So everything in the console, it runs all up to the patch bay, and the very top row is preamp out, preamp return.
Okay, and do you use the preamps here?
We do use them every so often, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay.
They do have a nice, rich, a very solid low end to them.
Oh, cool.
So it's another different characteristic that we can add. But just with the patch points, we can patch in any outboard preamp to replace that.
Cool.
And still go through like the EQ, the routing of the
nice.
board. It's just, it allows us to, pull the preamp out, put a different preamp in place.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay, so at the very top here, the APIs.
Every studio needs some APIs.
Well, I want to. I want to so bad. Actually, I won't do it now, but I'm curious about what this little API 2-channel unit is, but we'll get there.
Okay.
Because
the dumpster find, I call it.
is it-
We'll get there. We'll get to the dumpster.
Because it's frustrating that API seems to really put a lot of emphasis on the 500 series.
It drops right into their console frames.
Okay.
Their modules, the 500, the 512s, they
Right,
were made
right.
as preamps. Those drop into, and same with the EQs, they dropped into the consoles.
Right. And I'm not a 500 series guy yet,
Yeah.
but I like the rack mount stuff.
I've had a lot of guys over the years say, why don't you build 500 modules? You should get into 500 modules.
Oh,
Tristan.
really?
Do this. Well, then I got to buy another lunchbox, and then I got to follow the pin out for it. Then there's the size limitations. And
Right.
I like the rack size too.
I like the rack
your
size,
options
yeah.
are endless of what you can get into it.
And I love a 2-channel. I know they have a 4-channel 312, but
Mm-hmm.
I love a 2-channel, which they don't have unless it's the digital version.
Mm-hmm.
And then I love it. I know they do have a 2-channel of the 550As, don't they? Or
Possibly, yeah.
550s,
Yeah.
But I'm just surprised they don't get into more of that. I know they have channel strips and whatnot,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. I mean,
cool.
API is still also making consoles, right?
Right,
So
yeah.
to run out into the outboard markets, it's now a whole different market they're attacking. And
Yeah.
is their business able to do that?
Right.
Do they want to do that as
Yeah.
well? I mean, they're doing fine making a couple hundred consoles a year still.
yeah.
And they're
gorgeous.
big ticket consoles. They take a
Totally.
lot to make, but
Yeah.
they're like top of the line. It's
Yeah.
you can't go wrong with it.
Yeah.
But it's,
Okay, so this is something I was looking into just recently. This isn't made anymore. This is a preamp, right?
Yep, that's a Tube Tech, the MP1A, as I read the name off the faceplate, because I can never
So
remember its
smart.
model number.
And so, what, you got a bulb out here? Call your tech.
Scott Peacock did that one. The light bulb burnt out at some point, and Scott, I got a replacement light bulb. I'll show you, Tristan. So it was originally like a 24-volt light bulb that was
Okay.
in there, a weird voltage.
Yeah.
He had a little 6.3 volt from a guitar amp. He had an extra light bulb for a guitar amp from the
Okay.
heater voltage. Plugged it in there. Drew too much power.
Oh.
Blew the current resistor that's in there to limit the current to the light bulb. It went up in smoke. The whole thing filled out with like black smoke.
man.
So I'm waiting for Scott to fix that. He did it. He said he would do a better job than me. I'm going, Scott, you fix it. It's your problem. That was four or five
if
years
you're
ago.
watching. So I'm really curious about it because, I mean, obviously Tube Tech is such a huge
Yeah.
name. And like, I know they're making products again. I don't think they're making
Yeah.
something like this.
I know like they got compressors that are out there. They have
Yeah,
their EQs that are similar to
What
the
is the
Voltex.
sound of a Tube Tech preamp?
So it's just a couple tubes in there with some nice solid transformers,
Yeah.
and it's a nice, soft, comfortable, warm sound.
Okay.
There's something nice with just having a tube tone, but if you get a tube mic with a tube preamp, somehow the combination just adds together as well,
Right,
and it becomes an
right.
even more softer,
Okay.
rounder kind of sound to it.
So it would be like maybe like a 610 type of tube preamp? That thing?
Yep. Kind of similar in a way, but
Interesting. Yeah, you don't see them, I guess. When was that? When did they stop making those? Do you know?
I didn't even know they stopped making them.
Oh, okay. Well, I knew you had some, and so I was checking out their
Mm-hmm.
website because I know that they're making new stuff, but I couldn't find anything like it. I think they might have a 2-channel or a 4-channel, but
Or something else that's available, something
else, yeah.
comparable, yeah. This has been here longer than I've been here.
I just love how much space they use up.
Giant knobs are the
Great.
best.
We're not using that, are we, right now?
No. You just messed up the entire interview.
Sorry, did we hopped over this? What is this here?
Those are 2 channel strips of Ward Beck.
Oh, okay.
So these are the 490s. My friend Tony Kazub gave me these as I won a contest on his forum that he had.
Nice.
So Anthony Kazub, APK Audio up in Toronto, he was there when Revolution was being made. He was
Okay.
doing some tech work there.
Yeah.
He's now working at Ward Beck Systems.
Oh, okay.
So they were a broadcast company.
And are they
back in this-
Canadian?
Canadian. They
Okay.
started in Scarborough.
Oh, okay.
And now
Cool.
they're up in still Scarborough, in that area,
Nice.
just past Toronto. But they've gone into more communication,
Right.
internet protocol stuff, telecom stuff. And
So are there Ward Beck? So these are 2 preamps then?
Yep.
And with the
they
fader?
are actually just channel strips from a radio broadcast board. So there's a
Okay.
preamp in there, there's
Yeah.
a gain knob, you have the option of 2 microphone inputs, 2 outputs, and then the fader's just built in.
Well, I know that Kier has 8 channels of Warbeck,
A
right?
later series as well. Boxcar has
Boxcar
that
has a
12
board,
channel,
yeah.
the 480s.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I love how it's boxed in like that.
Yeah, I did
great.
the little pine cabinet to make that
Yeah.
same. Like all the woodworking here that's just my work, just picking away as
That's
a
really
hobby.
nice. Yeah.
But Warbeck is still in business. They do broadcast and corporate stuff, and
So to come across something like that would be, you just have to find it used or
they're
in their
on eBay.
warehouse?
They're floating
Okay.
around. They're available.
Yeah. Well, I know Mike said he didn't have to pay too much for his.
No. I mean, you can find, if you're willing to go out and buy one tomorrow, $250, you can get a channel strip with an EQ built in from one of those modules.
Really?
And the EQs are 3-band, fully parametric.
And then you would need someone like you
To build a power supply,
Right.
get the right connectors,
Right.
put in and outs on it.
which you do for free for any guys that you're best buds with, right?
No.
I've heard
As
that.
I look at
I've
the
heard
cameras,
that.
no.
I've heard that.
No.
So this is like this is a trim, is that
Yeah,
right?
so the way that
Okay.
I wire this one is you got the main gain control and then like an output level. through the
Okay, are
fader.
there any filters?
Nope, not on this one.
Okay, cool.
This was a very simple
Yeah.
console. It was
I
just
love it. It looks great.
microphone in, let's broadcast to the radio.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So
I want some. Okay, so this is your stuff, and I really, Tristan, I want to talk at great lengths, but we don't have time today because you
Yes, we do.
have such a huge studio, and we didn't bring the SD cards for your type of ego. But but I know you make your own stuff, and I do really want to chat so much because I think it's so fascinating, and we've seen these things. So this is your 1072s, right?
1272 is the number.
1272, sorry.
Which is just a Neve clone. So the way the number comes out of play is the 1272 module from a Neve console was just a line amp. It did the output driving. It drove like the aux outs, the master outs, the
Okay.
whatever sends left the board. It was just like a power horse module. Put it in, it gives you gain, it gives you power, it goes out.
Okay.
So that's the 1272 module. The 1073 is the famous, down here we got a pair of them, but it's the famous, it's got the EQ, it's got the preamp, and it's what
Right.
everybody wants.
Right.
What happened, I think maybe late 80s, 90s or so, just when like the outboard preamp thing kind of started picking up a bit,
Yeah.
some guy opened up a 1272 module, looked at it, opened up a 1073, looked at it. It's like, hey, they're the same parts.
Really?
Just they're little amps that are on cars, they go onto a connector, and then how you wire the connector. A little couple pins you jump determines the gain. So you can put a switch there, you can change the gain of the line amp to get the same
Wow.
gain as a preamp, and it's the same transformers.
No way.
So tone-wise, part-wise, they're identical.
Wow.
Jumping down, like here's are 4 of the original 1272 modules. So this is what I'm saying. This is the line module.
Okay, these are originals?
These have been modified. We put the gain knob on it. We put an output knob on it. But it would just be a blank faceplate sitting in a console somewhere.
Wow.
Same parts, you just rewire the guts. You got a preamp.
Wow. That's incredible. Yeah, I was going to ask about these.
Yep.
Oh,
So the 4 of these were here when I first started at the studio. The last 2, Dan Aiken bought parts off an auction. So he bought the amp cards, he bought the transformers,
Yeah.
and that was it. Here you go, Tristan, you're 18, you like electronics, build me this. So I got 2 cases from Brent Averill down in California, paid an arm and a leg for them,
Oh, yeah.
got them in, wired up, copied the other ones, wired them identically, made the preamps
Yeah.
work, got them
Yeah.
to work in the rack, and it dawned on me, this is easy. And the parts are affordable at the
Yeah.
time. The transformer cost has skyrocketed since then because
Okay.
of all the
More people
cloners that
doing
are
it,
out
yeah.
there. But it dawned on me, like, they're super easy. The parts are there, you buy the parts, you get good components, you build the preamp, and it's the same.
Yeah.
It's not a copy. I'm not like cutting corners with
Right.
knockoffs or anything. It's the same parts. It's the same design. It's the same chips. It's the same transistors.
So that's what you did with these here.
So that's where I started. I started down here with the ugly blue guy with my Comic Sans font.
Yes.
Which I think I should bring back the Comic Sans font. Everybody likes Comic Sans.
Well, I don't know. People were talking online the other day about the Warm Audio logo, and
But yeah, because they don't have Comic Sans, right? It's close, but it's not.
That could have been
it's
the
not
reason why
quite
people said
Comic
they didn't
Sans.
like
Comic
it. But
Sans has a place in everybody's
well,
heart.
there's this is at Boxcar, right?
I think they got a pair of those there.
Yeah.
Ben, I think I did the first blue ones I did. I made a run of like 5 or 6 of them.
Oh, yeah.
Ben, I think got number 3 or number 4, something low like that.
That's going to be worth a lot of money one day.
Yeah.
And then
I
we've
hope.
seen a lot of these at Tape. I should have known that you were pulling my leg when we were talking about Adam, because he's got most of your stuff over there. If you didn't know who he
Yeah,
was.
so even more history. Adam was here as an intern for a while when,
Oh, really?
when The Breast was recording their first album.
That's
And then
right.
he kind of came in as you started managing the studio
Yeah.
in a pseudo way, and he was involved a lot. And
Yeah.
so Adam started with some history here as well as Michael
Yeah.
Keir. And
That's right. I forgot they made that
Yeah.
record and lost that record here.
so over the evolution of building Comic Sans amps, it evolved into silver face plates. I added a filter to it, a phase, a pad.
Oh, yeah,
phantom
let me take a
power
look
switches to it. Just little candy knobs to fill up the rack space.
And they're all 2 channels?
2 channels in a box. Compare that to a cost of a 1073 preamp. You're still paying half. For 2 channels, you're paying about half of the value for 1 preamp.
Wow.
So it's an affordable copy.
Totally.
So the original blue ones I sourced out vintage transformers from an old console on eBay. That's when nobody was doing this.
Yeah.
I was started maybe like the start of the peak of all the cloners.
Yeah.
So I got a pile of transformers, dirt cheap. Made a bunch of copies of original parts and went from there. But all these new guys, I'm getting reissued transformers from Carnhill.
Okay.
If you open up anything from AMS Neve that they're currently making,
Right.
Carnhill transformers are in it.
Really?
You open up mine, Carnhill transformer in it.
Wow.
Part number, there's a match. So I'm not cutting corners. I'm not putting in a copy transformer. It is the same transformer.
Is the case expensive, the faceplate, like the 19-inch cases? Are they hard to find, or?
So when I do runs of outboard gear, I have to do 5 units, 6 units, 10 units to make it worthwhile. I all outsource the cases, so I got to pay the setup cost.
Okay.
Some guy to do the CAD design, enter in my numbers to get the machine to program and drill it.
Oh, they do
then
the
the
drills.
silk screen, they got to make the silk screen stuff for it, do the printing. So the setup cost alone is a couple $100.
Okay.
And then each case is like 80, 90 US dollars, whatever the exchange rate is or so.
Okay, cool.
But it's that initial cost you have to break up between the units that you're doing to make it worthwhile.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes sense.
send in order to get 1 case made for 1 project, you might be looking at a $600 case.
Right.
Whereas when I break it down, when I do a dozen units, the case costs me $100 each.
Right. Okay. That's cool. That's good to know. I had a question for you, off topic a little bit. This is something James and I were talking about a couple of months ago. But how come we don't see, maybe I just haven't seen them, but like rack mount effects similar to like stomp boxes, similar to guitar, like a rack mount flange or rack mount fuzz. 19-inch, 1 knob, like something like a big muff.
Yeah.
In a 19-inch rack.
I mean, like
that would be used-
Sanzap makes a
Right, yeah.
It's got drive and
it's
crunch
good,
controls,
yeah.
things like that.
And we were talking about this like a year ago or more, and then that was just before JHS, the guitar pedal company, announced that they're doing a bunch of 500 series racks of like their delay, a 500 series version of their delay pedal and of their fuzz pedal. But what are your thoughts on that? Like, because there's some people who might want to run like a parallel vocal into a fuzz or something.
I know a couple guys that I've even made cables for to just go from a patch bay into a guitar pedal and then back into the patch bay.
Yeah.
Just to get a simple, straight effect.
Yeah.
As to why people aren't doing rack mount units, I'm not sure.
Would the cost be there? Could it, like, is it, you're talking about $100 for a
$100
case.
for the box alone,
Yeah.
and then like
The guitar pedal itself is
I mean,
$100.
that number is coming from me doing it personally, doing small runs
Yeah.
of things. If you do an order of 100,000 units, like, your cost is definitely downhill.
Totally.
But it's a matter of how much can you retail 1 guitar effect for in a box.
I think I would love just rack-mounted. I think what would be hilarious is rack-mounted versions of popular guitar pedals, like with the logo scratched off and put onto the rack mount. Like, this is my big muff, this is my rat. I think that'd be cool.
Pull out a 2-unit case, open the lid. There's the pedal with wires coming from the old pots to the front.
I want my money back. Oh, that's great. Okay, so
Moving on.
We've seen the Millennia. That's
No one
kinda
cares
cool.
about Millennia.
Yeah,
They're clean and quiet.
Is that like it looks different. Is that 500 series or?
Nope. It's a solid heavy
Why is it all
rack
jammed
unit.
into this side?
So they use the same kind of case, just different panels that go on the front,
For
so you
their
can get an
eights?
8-channel.
Okay.
And the box has fillers filling up the extra holes in the back.
Okay.
So like when I order a case, I may order 1272 cases. It's different than my Pultec cases.
Right.
Whereas these guys, well, let's just order 1 case and put some dummy panels and fill up the rest.
There they go. That's
So
smart.
they do cost saving that way.
Do you find yourself going towards stuff that you've made over? Is there like a little competitive nature?
Sonically, like comparing my Neve clones to the originals we have here and the 1272s, the newest ones I made, they're quieter. Just because the caps are brand new.
Yeah,
The
sure.
resistors, I'm using a better tolerance. There's
Yeah.
better designs for the resistors compared to the 70s parts.
Yeah.
Just the hiss, the noise floor is a little bit lower. Tone-wise, they're the same, but if we need an EQ or if we want the Neve EQ, we have to go down to the 1073s.
Right. Why was there ever a thought to a lot of the copies will try to copy everything, the red knobs, the blue plate. What was your thinking with going a completely different direction?
Cost.
Cost?
So when I built these 2 years ago, one of these knobs was $30.
Really?
That's
As opposed to what for one of these?
$4.
Oh my gosh.
And those are still pricey. I'm doing a run of modular synth stuff. I paid 37 cents a knob.
Wow.
But they're cheap little
Yeah.
plastic colored knobs. They look like Mackie knobs in a way, but
Yeah.
you know, $4 for a knob is still pricey, but $30?
Yeah.
Oh, and these little guys, they were 20.
Oh my gosh.
So I actually got little guys for the blue run that I did. I bit the bullet. You know, I'm going to be a nice, smart young kid.
Yeah.
Spend the money. I learned my lesson.
You got the $30 knobs, but you still use Comic Sans.
Yep.
That's funny.
It's a $400 font.
Now, is it true that the API has like trademarked their knob, and has Neve done that too?
Quickly
I
jumping
heard that.
down here.
Yeah,
I got,
I do. I really want to see this.
yeah, so quickly jumping just on
Yeah.
the API knob thing. So here's a couple prototype APIs that I've done. Oh, man. So the first one I did, this ugly black guy. No Comic Sans,
I like it.
unfortunately.
I like
Very
it.
simple, right? Until I added pads after the fact, because I didn't think about pads.
Oh, okay.
So
how
the
much?
knobs,
How much is that pad?
a lot.
Okay.
Just about 20 dB.
20? Okay.
Costs you about $45, so I'm just pulling your leg. Okay. So I ordered some used knobs from, I actually got these parts from Classic API, is a company.
Okay.
Classic Audio Products of Illinois.
Oh, okay. Cappy.
Cappy is, they've
Yep.
gone towards, they
Yep.
shifted their brand. They do a lot of 500 series clones now, kits that you can assemble.
Right, okay.
When I first built these, they were just doing, we just got these new Transformer clones from Ed
Right.
Anderson. Try
Right.
these. So they had a section of used knobs. Then they got black knobs made, a run of custom ones for them. So these look like API knobs.
Yeah.
They're the same shape, the same size. They had the whole
Totally.
series of replacements. I checked a couple months ago because I'm looking at doing another run of
Yeah.
API styled stuff. They have their own style of knobs. And they have no reference to all these black knobs. There's nothing about it. What I suspect, without doing any research, is maybe there is, a cease and desist order saying this is our knob style. You're copying it. And
Well, I read a post on Gear Sluts by an employee of API.
there's your problem. It's gear sluts.
I know, but someone speaking on behalf of API saying that the knobs are now trademarked.
Yeah. I could see a company doing that because
Yeah.
it is. You see
It's
that knob and
iconic.
hey, that's
Yeah.
that's something API, but no, these are both clones.
Yeah. I'm really interested in this. This is a piece that I want to buy myself, the 3124, the one
Yep.
that the API makes.
Yep.
They're expensive though. They're $3,500. But I love yours. It looks great.
So I think
Let me know how much it costs.
Boxcar had one. I did a couple of the silver face kind of style, so
Yeah.
they looked a lot better. They
Yeah.
had nicer buttons on it.
I like the look of the black. I like this one though.
I do like the black text.
I think it's,
with the label printer labels
Just
on it.
I love that. The little
cheesiness
one
of it.
red knob looks like a Smartie.
It does light up when you press it too.
I love it.
So I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, it comes into just around half the cost of what an API one would cost.
Wow.
It's not the same. The API stuff does use cloned transformers, cloned op amps,
Right.
but it's still a great sounding preamp.
That's cool. There's something I love too about the DIY stuff. It when it has a look of like it's been made by someone and I think that there's something cool about that.
The original stuff I've done, and even one-off stuff I do, I do have a style of. I look at something like, hey, that looks like something I did.
Yeah,
But
no, totally.
I'm anything I do like a run of a dozen for. I've been trying to shift towards a more streamlined image.
Well, we've been coming to the studios like this, and the guys have been saying like we need to start skipping over distressors, and we need to start skipping over the DBX,
common stuff that
the
everyone
common
has.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so it's kind of nice to come here and say, hey, what do you have?
What's different?
Let's on that note. Okay, so I want to talk about this Tubetronics because I actually think I have met this guy because he was telling me about this LA2A, stereo LA2A that he built.
Yep.
And that there was a couple around Hamilton. And actually I've checked online and you can still find them on
There's talk about them.
on
They are
YouTube
rare.
or on eBay.
So it all started with the lovely blue guys here. I'm
Okay.
sure there were some rough prototypes before that. This has 002 scratched into the back of it by hand.
No way.
This is number 2, I think. I can't quote me on this or anything,
Yeah.
but I think Grant Avenue might have number 1.
No, yeah, that's cool.
So this was actually supposed to be Dave Kuche is the guy. It was supposed to be his personal unit.
Okay.
Somehow we ended up with it. So it's slightly different than the other ones. He used some different components, he claims. And
Yeah.
It is just a great LA2A copy. So he did maybe 3, 4, 5 of these blue guys and figured this is picking up, but there's a lot of interest.
Yeah.
But he needed some money to do a larger run. There's, in existence, I think he only did 30 to maybe 35 of these in total.
And they're out there.
They're out there somewhere. There's one down in Texas. There's one in Vancouver somewhere. I ran into one at the gas works or the gas station on Toronto Island. There's a studio there.
Oh, really?
So I saw one there. I did a session with Ben Sommer years ago, actually. I walked in and was like, oh, there's a Tubetronics. I am happy.
Yeah, no kidding.
He did 3 or 4 of these guys as prototypes to get the word out there. Needed some quick cash. He had an old Ampex tape machine. These are old channel strips from like an 8-track tape machine.
Oh my God.
So behind that would be the EQ controls, the bias controls, and everything. So he gutted the chassis out, built single channel of those the compressors into these guys as single units. There's only 8 of these in existence.
Oh my goodness.
2 of them happen to be here at the moment.
Where are the other ones?
No idea.
Oh my goodness.
No idea. I think
TMPR10.
these were out of some studio that shut down.
Can't even look at them.
They're shiny.
They're shiny.
This one has a burnt out light, but.
So you have a meter and what's this down here?
GRRC, he called this one.
Okay.
Same one with here. I added the similar feature to my CN2A copies. I call that GRLC.
Okay.
So what that's doing is the way a compressor works is you got the input, it goes to the compression thing, and then it goes to the output amp, and then it goes out.
Okay.
From the input, it splits down to what's called the detector circuit. And it detects how loud the audio is, and it sends a signal to the compression unit. Hey, compress more or compress less.
Right.
So what the GRRC and what my low cut thing does is on that signal that goes to that detector, it rolls off the low end. So if you get like a thud in the mic, or like if I just pound my chest with this lab on, it shouldn't pick up that low end and it won't compress.
Oh, okay.
So it ignores the low frequency. It doesn't cut it out of the audio that you hear.
Right.
It just doesn't compress with low frequency.
Okay, cool. Get it. I mean, so these are single channels, essentially an LA2A.
Yep.
Is there a bypass?
I don't think he added a bypass in this one. No, and not in the other one either.
I mean, I feel like these would just be so coveted because they're so unique looking. And nowadays there's more LA2A clones. I know Catherine
Warm's
North.
releasing one. I got my own one. There's
Stam. But this would have been well before that.
This would have been
And
late
you're saying
90s,
there's
early
8?
2000s. 8 of these gold
Oh
plate
my
ones,
gosh.
30 to
So
35
cool.
of the blue guys. And it's a great piece of gear.
I bet you Prince has a few, maybe.
Maybe.
It looks like something that would be in there.
The gold would help.
They're cool. That's incredible. I didn't know anything about that. When he told me about the 2A,
Yep.
I did a little bit of research, and I actually recently saw one on Reverb going for $5,000.
Really? You should have jumped on it.
Yeah.
You should have bought me 2 of them. I'd store them for you. So when he was done with the blue guys, I guess maybe the tubes are too expensive or something, or the cost of the unit was too much. But his nickname was also Maz at the time.
Okay.
I think he drove a Maserati.
Okay.
He claimed, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I asked him for a joyride one day, but it didn't happen. So he went to a 2-unit black face plate called Maz compressors. Maybe a different model name, but it had Maz on it.
Okay.
Similar circuitry, there was tubes in it.
Yeah.
He changed the detector a little bit to get more electronic parts,
Right.
like ICs and stuff in it, just to reduce cost. And
I think I remember him telling me that it was like easier to get parts from Universal Audio or whoever it was, Teletronics, you know, back then than it would be now, where they're probably a little bit more protective.
So with my LA2As, the CN2As there, the schematic is the same, the part layout is, the layout's on a circuit board, but the components are the same. The circuit's the same to the schematic. Everything's wired the same.
Right.
I have a little 8-pin connector where I built my own little optical sensors that go into it.
Okay.
The compression cells go into it.
Yeah.
You can take the original LA2As and the LA3s use the T4B cells.
Okay.
Was the designation for them. And you could take one of those, plug it into the circuit board I made, and it's the same as an LA2A.
Where do you get those?
You can get replacements from Universal Audio.
Okay.
They limit you on how many you can buy.
Okay.
And I'm sure nowadays they might ask for a serial number of your unit.
Right.
Because they don't want guys buying these things off of them to make clones.
Totally. That's interesting.
Now, another interesting thing is everyone talks about the LA2A sound and how that cell, the compression cell, has that characteristic. Yeah. What a lot of people miss is they're 30, 40 years old. They're out of spec.
Right.
So what the original ones use is they use an Indiglo pad. the glow of like a stopwatch or like a sports watch. That
Okay.
backlight,
Yeah.
that blue light, that's what they use as a light to produce. So when audio got loud, the panel lit up. A light sensor saw that and compressed the audio.
Okay.
The slowness of that cell, and it would stay charged as you turn the voltage off.
Right.
That created your tack and release.
Okay.
That is what became the iconic sound of the
Yeah.
LA2A, plus the tubes and transformers. But that characteristic was part of that cell. Those cells burn out after 10 years, 5 years. They wear out. They don't get as bright. They charge slower. They release faster. And so the characteristics of vintage stock units is nothing what they should sound like.
Right.
So now the problem is, if you change it, put a new one, it doesn't sound like all the other LA2As in the world.
Wow.
But it sounds like an LA2A should.
Yeah.
So it's this
Interesting.
weird phenomenon of, the gear's not up to spec, but it sounds as people expect it to sound out of spec.
Right.
Do you fix it or
That's
not?
really interesting. I didn't know that about how the optical worked. So how many of the LA2As of yours have you made?
I did a run of 9 of those.
Okay.
An odd number because they sent me an extra circuit board when I ordered them.
Okay.
So I can't just have an empty circuit board. Let's just order an extra
Sure.
case.
So I've seen one at Boxcar. And then does Adam have one?
Boxcar has one, Adam Bentley has one, Dave King at the Barnes Studio has one, Jeremy
cool.
Greenspan has one.
Oh,
I
cool.
think I have one with Jim Bryson up in Ottawa.
Oh, nice.
Who else has them? I think one's out on loan with a friend somewhere. I forget where they all are.
That's great.
Yeah.
And I've seen your website before and the stuff that you make, because you have Pultex as well.
There's Pultex there.
Oh my gosh. Okay, let's hop around.
Moving
the
on.
LA2. Sorry, what is this? LA4?
The distressor? You missed the distressor. Let's talk about the distressor.
Let's talk about the distressor.
Okay,
Everyone
moving on
is-
from the distressor, because
got a
everyone's
distressor.
talked about they're great. They're just, we need 8 more of them. But
Yes.
so we got 4 LA4s that are below that.
Yeah, and okay, I really don't think I know anything about the LA4.
So LA2s, they were all tube
Okay.
circuitry inside.
Yep.
They used that watch cell as the compression. The
Okay.
LA3 turned into solid state parts, so chips and transistors.
Okay.
They used the same watch cell, the
Okay.
identical cell to do the compression.
But no tubes.
No tubes.
Okay.
So then the LA4 came out and it's all solid state. It uses an LED as the light source rather than an electrical panel that lights up.
Okay.
So it's got a faster attack and a quicker release.
Awesome. This is why I come here. I want to know these things.
The tech stuff.
The
It's-
tech stuff. I love it. It's great. So I've heard things about the LA3s, about how they're quicker, they're better for guitars and whatnot. A lot of people say the LA2s are for vocals and bass, things where you want it to be softer.
Yep.
So where does the LA4 lie?
Great for drums, quick, punchy. They're
Yeah.
very fast as well.
Cool.
These ones have been modified as well.
You have 4 of them. How did
got
you
4 of them.
How did you modify them?
So originally the chips that they use, the op amps, the amplifier chips in there, they are terrible. The stock
really?
ones are awful. They're so slow. It's this measurement called the slew rate, how fast the amp can go high voltage and how fast it can go down. It's measured in microseconds.
Okay.
And it's, you look at a chart on an oscilloscope, it's tiny. But it makes a difference with high frequency as it goes up and down really
Right.
fast. If the chip can't go fast enough, it distorts the high end and just becomes foggy and muddy. It
Okay.
doesn't get as clear.
Yeah.
So these have brand new op amps put into it, Burr Brown specifically. And that's a name that gets thrown around with op amp upgrades for gear is Burr Brown. It's just hyper fast. It's about 100 times faster than the old chips.
Wow.
So the clarity, the definition, the strength of the signal.
Where did
is
these come
cleaner.
from? I don't see them come up used very often.
They do float around. For a pair, you're looking at maybe $1,400, $1,600.
I wonder if they weren't very popular when they came out. It must have been a...
Well, the LA2As were leveling amplifiers designed to go into broadcasts and
Right.
radio stations. And
Right.
they would be set, they would be put into a rack, the door would be shut in the machine room, and they would control like the master output of the radio station going to the broadcast tower.
Right, which would be mono.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you would set it and you would forget it. Now there's
Yeah.
pictures of Woodstock where you see guys with LA2A sitting on the ground at a delay tower. And it's just, there's an LA2A sitting on the dirt at Woodstock.
Oh, man.
So the LA4s were the same idea, LA3s as well. They would be put into a station, wired, and
Yeah.
that'd be it. So that's why the back of LA2As, the back of LA4s, they're all the terminal strips with screws.
Yeah.
Guys need like pigtail adapters that go to an XLR.
Yeah.
Or in most of the cases, they've been drilled out and had connectors added.
Yeah.
But they were designed to go into a rack, wired in place, and that was it. They work. They're set, you forget about it.
Yeah. That's
But
really cool.
As we use it for audio, we need the connectors, the in and out. And then,
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I'd love to hear those fours sometime.
So this is a dumpster find.
Okay.
This is way before my time as well. A lot
Yeah.
of stuff is before, but I know the stories. Rumor has it that someone was in a dumpster behind CHCH. digging through stuff. You know, they might have gotten a tip or something, and digging through boxes, open up this thing, and I think it said Laugh Box or something on it. So
Okay.
open it up, and they pull it out, and there's these 2 butchered cards of API. These are the 2 cards from 2 553 EQs. They are 3-band fixed EQs for 500 series.
Wow.
They
Never heard
were,
of that.
I think they were a kind of a budget EQ option for consoles. So they're not switchable frequencies. There's no Q adjustment. It's just
Just a bell, like a
high, mid, and
notch?
low.
And is this 0 here?
Wherever halfway is. So, yep, up would be 0.
Okay.
So just a boost and a cut. Someone before my time just drilled out the chassis, put a power supply in it.
Yeah.
And
That's really
the
cool.
cars were just found in a box in a dumpster.
Does it sound good?
Yep. Yep.
I really like that. I mean, when I got started using, like doing sound at church or using like the old DAWs on Windows, you didn't have the full EQ parametric EQ, or the type of stuff that we have now.
Mm-hmm.
It was always just high, medium, low, like
Fixed
treble,
tone
bass,
control, right?
middle, yeah. And sometimes like I feel like I miss that.
Yeah. Usually that's all you really needed was just the simplicity and the confinement, the restriction of not being able to tighten your cue. I mean, if we jump ahead to these Uris here,
let's do that.
These are some other EQs that are here just in case we feel like getting hypercritical. But I mean, the giant knobs, this first band can go from 24 up to 315 hertz. The next band is 190 hertz all the way up to 2.24K.
Wow.
0.96K all the way up to 12K. So they're massive ranges on these bands as you go up.
Yeah.
But then you can adjust the width of these. These are
I've
their
never seen
versions of
anything like this
parametric.
at all.
These you can get hyper surgical. You can just keep it soft and do like a 1 dB boost on something.
And then this is a gain, or
What is that one?
High cut.
High cut.
Oh my
You got
gosh.
low cut. So it's
This is kind
what
of
that,
like
a
their
9-band?
Pultec style.
But super adjustable. You can
Yeah.
cross the bands over each other. You can match them up and get like a 30
Interesting.
dB boost on
You-
something. A
do you
30
use
dB
them
cut.
often?
Not too often because we don't need to get that critical usually.
Yeah.
These would have been essentially when they were made for room equalization or room treating or fixing problems.
Oh, okay.
So you can overlap right at 60 hertz and you can get 2 cuts, give you a
Right.
30 dB drop of a super tight cue and pull out 60 hertz if you're getting ground noise.
Wow.
And it just became a kind of I call it a scientific EQ because you can
Right,
get surgical.
right.
You can go and you can notch things out that you don't hear the difference, but it's removed and the troublesome is gone, right?
We talk about that, like surgical EQs for stuff like that. And obviously, you're a hugely analog studio, but wouldn't it just be easier if you were looking for something that's a problem to grab a plugin, to grab something like a Fab Filter?
Buy a plugin and you can use it 100 times on every track.
Yeah.
That is what plugins are for and what they do.
Yeah.
That's why these don't get that much use anymore.
Right.
Because you patch it in to pull out something like a simple frequency, but you got to patch it in, you got to turn it on, you got to find the frequency, you got to cut it out, make sure you're cutting out the right amount.
Whereas in a plugin, you can just see the frequency.
You can see it, or it's just a quick, it's in that range, we'll pull it down, and then we'll just continue on. We'll find that later. We'll fix it in the mix.
Yeah.
The words that is going to kill everybody is we'll fix it in the mix.
Yeah. No, I'm one for getting it right. But, when you're talking about, I have that too, where there's just, that organ was giving me a bit of a hum or something. And I couldn't imagine trying to dial it in on something like that.
Yep. So you just
That's
keep
cool.
slowly turning the knob till you find it and it's gone.
Yeah.
Because you're pulling 30 dB out of a super tight
Right.
angle and it sucks it out.
Yeah. That's awesome.
But yeah, in today's world, they don't see that much use anymore. And personally, like if I'm getting a weird kind of tone or resonant at one frequency, and I would go over, move the mic a little bit. Did that fix it?
Yeah.
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 It's
Unplug
faster.
the lamp next to it.
It's faster than dealing with trying to notch it out and fix it kind of after that. Because even though we're doing it in real time with analog going through it, we're still fixing the previous audio, right?
Totally.
So fix it from the source, and then you don't have to use an equalizer to fix anything else.
That's smart. Well, listen, man, I love the way you think, and I love this rack. And as I stand back and look at it, I love how everything has a story. And you said that earlier about this whole building. And I mean, you've got your pre's, some of them that you've built, some of them are here because they're workhorses and everyone believes them. But I just feel like when we go to a studio and we look at a bunch of distressors and we look at a bunch of warm audio or stuff that you see a lot.
1176 or
1176, it's great, and I'm jealous. I want to own those. I want to own the DBX 160s. I want to own like all that kind of stuff. But when you come here and you see such a personal connection. Yeah, it is. It's a collection. It's
I mean,
really
there's
cool.
4 of us that are running the place. The studio, the business itself, it owns some gear that we bought with the studio.
Okay.
But a lot of the stuff in here is personal. A lot of the
Right.
guitars, I own some guitars, Dan has some guitars.
Right.
A lot of the gear here is mine, some of it's Scott's, some of it's
Yeah.
Duke's. And it's like, we love these pieces.
Totally.
Let's put it here and, I'll use your stuff, you use my stuff.
Totally, yeah.
And it's become this collection of boutique-y kind of unique
It's
stuff.
so great.
And like you said, we got the workhorses, we got 1073s, we got original 1272s, we got the DBXs there.
Yeah.
The stuff that people would expect to see.
Expect to have, yeah. Yeah, because a lot of producers, they know what they're doing with the distressor
Yeah.
and they just want it
Because
there.
they've used them
Yeah.
before, because they're
Yeah.
everywhere. But we like having boutique-y, neat stuff.
I think that's
nice.
great. Okay, I love this. We talked about just like the aesthetic of this place and the stuff that you've built. And this is a great idea for a mic locker. I think people are going to steal this idea after they see this video.
Wow.
I'm going to steal this idea.
Terrible way how I got this cabinet.
Why? How?
Well, everything's got a story in this place.
It does.
This used to be at my grandmother's house. She passed away about 3 years ago.
Oh,
And
sorry.
we're clearing the house
She had
out.
a lot of microphones.
She had a lot of microphones.
Oh,
She
man.
was an interesting mic collector. But yeah, it's, do we throw out this cabinet? The studio could use it. Put
what-
some new shelves in, cut the grooves, put some lights in it, wire in some lights, and
I really like the lighting. It's a
here
good
it is.
choice.
Here it is.
It's a good choice. So you've got some of the usual suspects.
Couple
SM7s.
SM7s. There's Sennheiser
guy?
stuff there.
Do you have mics? I imagine you have mics in here that you goof off with, like trash mics that.
I mean, there's a
used
collection
for
of
different
stuff that
sound.
aren't even plugged in. But like this little guy here, it's
Yeah.
a lo-fi, distorted kind of sound. It's cool
Yeah.
in its own way.
Yeah.
Sometimes it serves a purpose. Sometimes it's more trouble to set up.
Is it? Yeah.
So I mean, there's stuff we use all the time.
That's a D12
Yep.
classic.
D1112 somewhere in here as well, right
Yeah.
beside it.
Yeah.
Sennheiser kick is missing at the moment. It's around somewhere.
What's this E20?
So that's an
R20.
RE20. I just picked that one up.
very
A little
old.
beat up. I got it's been abused.
Yeah.
There's another one a little bit better shape with the shock mount that goes with it.
That's nice. So let's talk about these beauties here.
These little guys. That is a old Neumann SM69. It is a stereo
Yeah, I can
microphone.
see
The
it.
2 capsules, you got a capsule, but you can change the angle of it.
Wow.
Then also from the power supply, because a 19 pin or however many pins
Yeah.
are, the cable goes back to the power supply. You can select the polar pattern for each capsule.
Oh, cool.
So you can do a sharp 90 and 90 and do like a figure eight and get kind of a figure eight stereo, or
So-
you can do XY and get cardioids.
Right. So what would you do with this then?
That is a great room mic.
Yeah. For the drums?
I mentioned earlier,
Yeah.
like moving a mic 10 feet back, 10
Right.
feet back, 10 feet back. I use that one
Wow.
because it's one mic, one cable.
So it goes out to
directions.
here, and then there's 2 XLR outs from the
It goes
box?
into a brick power supply, and
Yeah.
yeah, then you get 2 XLR outs from
Oh,
there.
wow.
Top capsule and base capsule, I call them.
You put it over top of drums?
You
ever?
can do it over top, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's really cool. I didn't even know that existed. I hadn't
It's
seen
a
one before.
nice flexible stereo guy.
And this here is just SM58, right?
It's a disposable Telefunken SM58 clone.
Listen, I will take anything that you want to get rid of. I'll just help you out. You have
Okay.
so much junk here.
I got like a Neve summing set I can give you
Please.
as well, please. Yeah.
Okay, so tell me about this here.
That is a Telefunken U47. Yes, a U47.
There's tube in here?
There's a tube in there. There's no LEDs because this is before LEDs were made, so the LEDs don't light up the tube, so you can't see it.
So it's real.
It is a real
heat.
tube microphone preamp. U47s are highly sought after. They're very valuable and they're very unique as well.
Yeah.
If you see Frank Sinatra had them as his
Right.
vocal mic, and
Right.
it's a large diaphragm, very rich overall, very nice,
And they're
warm,
German?
rich, German made. So the rumor is that the early ones, the Telefunkens, when they were first made, they were made for Nazi Germany as broadcast and radio stuff.
Okay.
So the rumor is that the parts, the frames, the tubes, the circuit boards, and they were all stamped with swastikas.
Really?
This is something I've read and I've
Yeah.
been told over the years,
Okay.
but I've ripped this one apart many times and I've seen no signs of
Really?
that at all.
When was this made? What year?
That would have been in the 30s to the 40s or so.
Oh my gosh. I mean, that's incredible. You're talking about like these technology that we've abandoned after 5 years and stuff that lasts for 10 years. And then there's things like this. It's still the most
They
coveted.
make a resurgence, or they kind
crazy.
of come back. So the tube U47s were very popular when they first came
Mm-hmm.
out, used all over the world. Then they went out with the FET version
Right.
of the FET 47 came out. Then they just stopped making these.
Right.
Essentially, the tube that's in there was only limited quantity available. The factory was destroyed, or they stopped making them, whatever
Right.
the story is. But they stopped because they were running out of tubes. The tubes are now very expensive.
Wow.
if you can find one. So they went to the FETs. Then all these broadcast stations, well, FET 47s are out. Throw out these tube ones. They're all junk.
Wow.
Thousands of these things in dumpsters, in landfills. I think of like the story of old video game cartridges, the ET cartridge from Atari being found in wastelands.
Right.
Same thing you can find with U-47 somewhere.
Oh, man.
Somewhere there's thousands of these. So a guy named Dan Alexander from California, audio guy, I'm not sure what he does really, but it's the names around, but he has stories of in the 90s and 80s and 70s, he would fly to Europe, travel around, buy all these old junky tube 47s from broadcast stations, bring them back to the US. And he made, I'm sure, lots of money.
Oh, yeah.
Because years ago, these were garbage.
Yeah.
And now, 10,000 plus price range on them.
Yeah, no kidding. So would this be your primary vocal mic for singers, or?
Comes and goes.
Yeah.
I mean, it all depends on the singer. It's a good place to start. And then from there, is it too delicate on their voice? Is their voice too soft to match the softness of the mic?
Yeah.
And it becomes a trial and error.
And what pre usually with that?
That goes great with the tube tech. So tube mic into a tube preamp.
Yeah.
And if you really want going into a tube compressor, it just gives you the whole
Do you
tube
have any
chain.
tube compressors there?
I don't know. I should probably build some.
I didn't see any. I love this cabinet. I honestly, I think that I'm gonna think of what I have at home and because I don't have a lot of mics, but
Are you just gonna take all your wife's dishes out of the china
exactly.
cabinet? Just
we
knock
don't
it
use
over,
China.
dump it out.
We don't use China.
The mics are
We
more
use
expensive.
Some of these I don't want to pick up.
An old RCA DX77, a nice ribbon mic.
Really cool. Oh, what is this here?
That's an even older 414. So you saw
Wow,
a pair of
yeah,
the ULS from
yeah.
the 70s and 80s. This is older. That has an AKG C12 capsule. So the C12
smaller.
mic is another, $10,000,
Yeah.
$12,000 microphone.
Yeah.
That's the capsule in it.
So this is C12.
The capsule built into an AKG.
Wow. I've never seen that before.
I think that's right. Someone's gonna say I'm wrong.
Yeah. It'll probably be you.
Probably.
That's okay. If you want to comment on this video and insult my lack of intellect.
Or mine.
No, he's smart. Then please do it. Actually, there was a guy, you'll know this. There was a guy that commented on Dan's video, and he asked about the model number of Dan's Soundcraft board. Can you answer his question?
Hello, guy on the Facebook Internet world.
I think his name was, let's call him Mike.
Insert name here. So that is a Soundcraft Series 1. That is not a Series 1S, that is a Series 1. Soundcraft, they did a bunch of custom stuff back in the 60s and 70s to start the company. Their first mass-produced mixing board for live purposes or any purposes was the Series 1. It was built into that aluminum fight case. That's not like a road case for the
Oh, I was
mixer.
wondering about
when you
that.
take the screws out, you pull out a big metal panel and there's the electronics in the back. That is the case.
Wow.
So it's 16 channels. I think there was a 32 one available. There was a big ugly connector on it that goes to a Soundcraft snake that would run out to your stage as the snake for the console.
Wow.
So it's the first mass-produced console by Soundcraft.
Well, there you go. Brought to you by Catherine North Electronics. So if you have any questions, leave your questions in the comments below, and Tristan will answer them all.
I have
all day
nothing.
long.
I have nothing else to do with my
He's free.
time.
Oh man. Well, listen. There's so much stuff in here that I am going to sneak into my backpack, but
I'm watching you.
I could talk forever about all this stuff. But listen, we're gonna get some shots and talk around. I know that we've talked about the amp room, and the guys are gonna want to shoot in there.
Yep.
And then there's another room back there, and the little ISO booth there.
Little ISO booth, yeah.
But it's a beautiful space, and it has such a reputation in the city, and people have always. Actually, there was, not to mention the fact that you, Tristan, have been mentioned on nearly every video that we've done because you.
Nearly. Who didn't? I need to get in contact with them. They need to know who I am.
Who didn't?
I've never met Matt, so I'm assuming Matt, the one that was just released.
No, but I thought he did, didn't he? Did Matt at Attic? I can't remember. No, at Matt. Did you cast it?
I don't think they mentioned him as cast.
Oh. Anyway, so you're always mentioned in the stuff that we're doing, and a lot of people have said, "Are you guys going to Catherine? Are you guys going to Catherine?" And I said, "Of course we're going to Catherine. We're not."
And then you
idiots."
finally, weeks after that, you decided to message me. Maybe we should go to Catherine.
I know. Well, listen, thanks a lot for having us,
Yeah.
and want to come back and talk. I actually do really want to come back and spend more time and talk about the building of gear and that whole DIY thing. I know there's a lot of people with the hairball kits who are getting into themselves.
I got a hairball story if you want a hairball story.
I want to save it for the next video.
Perfect.
Yeah, well, I mean, all that kind of stuff I think people are really interested in. I think people like to cut the corners. And I think, you know, without saying anything bad about the older brands, they've been living off of that brand for so long, those iconic knobs that we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so...
I mean, the Neve name carries around with different companies as well, but Rupert Neve, even the 1073s, Rupert Neve, the Neve guy, had little to do with the 1073.
Really?
At that point in the business's age and its career, they had a room of engineers designing things. They had a drafting room of guys drawing the schematics.
Wow.
Rupert Neve was just, you know, his name's in the company.
Which is funny because they're more sought after than the actual Neves that he's building today.
Which is good because the quality of the gear is there, and that's what's sought after.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, the new Rupert Neve design stuff is Rupert Neve's name put on for different companies' gear.
Right.
It's still good stuff, but it's not the 1073s.
Sure.
But that just gets mixed in with Rupert Neve did the 1073s, but he kind of didn't.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Love it. Love it. Thanks a lot, man. Great to be here.
We can just keep going.
I know we could. Thanks, guys.